Hello, Lapeer community. Matt Wandrie, Superintendent, joining you today via Zoom with our high school principals, Doug Lindsay, and our community high school principal, Shad Spilski. We have a really important message today regarding some of our end of the year senior events. We know that because of the COVID pandemic, there's been a delay in a lot of our traditional events, and planning for them has really been impacted as a result of the stay home, stay safe executive orders from our governor. We had really hoped that by delaying the specifics of some of these events and the planning for them, that we would get closer to a resolution to where they would look more traditional, meaning in a face-to-face setting. It doesn't appear that we're getting closer to an announcement that's going to allow for large-scale public gatherings. And we really appreciate your patience. So we know, especially our senior students and their families have been really anxious about just wanting to plan their summers and figure out what's going on. And so your patience has been greatly appreciated by myself, the two principals joining me today, who are going to share the specifics of that information with you. When we last spoke publicly, I talked about requesting kind of a good faith effort from our community as related to trying to figure out how to engage and participate in the online learning activities in that new environment for all of us. And I'm just so pleased to report that our parents, our students, our teachers, our administrators, really everyone has kind of bought into that idea of having that patience and putting forth a good faith effort to make it the most positive outcome in a really strange time. So I just want us to take this time to say thank you for that and your patience in waiting for all these specifics. And we're really, really happy to be able to do that today. I'm very proud of Mr. Lindsay and Mr. Spilski both, who have taken great pains to solicit feedback from not only the parent community, but they've actually talked to a number of our students in the form of survey and face-to-face conversations to find out what's most important to our families and our students as it relates to participating in some of these really important events. And you look at things like Swing Out with, decades of worth of tradition in our community, and Doug and Shad in concert with local officials like our police and our city management, to try and make some of these things happen and try to be as flexible as we can given the restrictions that we currently find ourselves in. So I just want to say thanks to our high school administrative team for taking the time and developing what I think is a really, really great plan. In the best of times, graduation planning and end of year event planning is a very complicated and logistically challenging task. These certainly are not the best of times. So we appreciate your understanding and hope that you would apply that same good faith effort to what you're about to hear from Doug and Shad as it relates to how some of these year-end events are going to be modified. Again, it's certainly not the way we wanted to end the school year with our staff, with all of our students, but in particular our seniors. You only have one opportunity to graduate from high school, and as a parent of a recent high school graduate, I know Mr. Lindsay shares that same distinction. Not only have we been on the planning side from the school district perspective to put these types of events together, we've also sat in the audience as dads, as parents, and we know how important experiences are to you as moms and dads and grandparents and guardians, family members, siblings of these graduates. So it's an emotional time. It's one in which we understand how much this means to you. And we're just very hopeful that the plan we put together addresses what's most important to you. And so this time I'm going to hand it over to Doug and Shad, handle the specifics, and I'll be back with a final message when we're done.
Thanks, Matt. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as so Mr. Spilski and I can talk through some of the main pieces here with what we're looking at related to our plan to honor our seniors in the way that they deserve. So a good deal of time has been spent in putting this together and planning and taking the feedback, as Matt has said, working with local officials as well. So we have to start just a schedule of events for what is for us every year Senior Week. And so it's got to look a little different this year. We're going to talk specifically about each one, and you're also going to receive a letter that goes into even more detail than what we're going to share today. But on June 1st, We will handle our material return at the high school, as well as a locker cleanout. And then for both schools, we'll handle cap and gown dispersal. June 2nd will be our honors convocation. June 3rd, we will be conducting our baccalaureate ceremony. In an effort, because we know it's so important to honor the tradition of swing out, we have worked with law enforcement to put together a senior cruise on June 4th, and we'll talk a little bit about specifics of what that will look like. Our Lapeer Early College recognition was scheduled for next week, and we're going to do that on Friday, June 5th, to release that to recognize our 13th year program and that cohort of students and their accomplishments. And then we're going to run our hybrid commencement ceremonies on June 7th, and we'll talk about what that looks like here in just a moment. So senior week, looking at it day by day. I'm going to start off with Monday, June 1st. The mentioned locker cleanout for LHS. It'll take place from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. with allowing 10 students total at a time in the building. And we're going to run it a little bit like our reverse registration process. So at registration at the start of the year, you come in, you have to go handle certain tasks, like going to get your parking permit or getting your schedule pickup or your picture. We're going to work backwards on that, and we're working on a checklist for those things that need to be handled then. It'll go from 8 to 3. And it'll also allow students to clean out their personal items from the building as well.
For caps and gowns, for both schools, LHS and Community High, the dispersal of those will be at the high school, at Lapeer High School. So our community students will need to come here between 8 and 3. That will be, as Doug had mentioned, kind of the last station of the reverse registration piece. So as students exit the building that day, they will pick up their caps and gowns as the last station.
So on the 2nd, that was our scheduled date for honors convocation, and we are holding to that date. We're in the process of producing a video that will be able to recognize the accomplishments of our graduates. It will include students' academic recognitions, those students that have earned honors of like Scholars of Achievement, Scholars of Distinction. We'll also be conducting our scholarship announcements that evening, and we'll present our outstanding award winners for those 6 outstanding awards we do at the end of that ceremony. That will be released to the public through School Messenger, linked to a YouTube at 6 p.m. that evening.
Through our surveys that we have sent out to both schools, we know that baccalaureate is very important to many of our families in our community. So we will continue with that tradition. We are working with the local churches right now to create a video version. We are going to continue to do that and film that over the next couple of weeks and have that prepared. So come Wednesday on June 3rd at 6 p.m., we will be releasing that in a YouTube video format, as we are with the same thing like convocation, with honors convocation too. So families will get an opportunity to be a part of that ceremony and get to honor their students in that format.
Senior cruise. I know swing out's important to everybody, and we couldn't lose that tradition this year. And we can't also, though, bring 2,000 people into a 4-block radius downtown. And so we've worked with the police department extensively, but we are going to run a senior cruise. We're going to begin a lineup here at Lapeer High School for both schools, right? Because swing out and our senior cruise replacement this year involves both Community High School and LHS. We're going to have a car decorating contest, essentially with that, with prizes being awarded for some categories that are listed and referenced in the letter. We've partnered with AM 1230. They'll be on site to help us do some announcing of department and mock awards through the radio. And during the course of the cruise, they're actually going to be playing some of the music performed this year by our band and choir students. We're going to travel from LHS to CFI on a route listed out in the letter and worked with law enforcement to establish. And then ending at CFI so that we're honoring our students with the stadium lights being turned on at 8:20 p.m. and will remain on for 20 minutes and 20 seconds for the class of 2020. On Friday, June 5th, as I mentioned earlier in the schedule, we're going to release a video to recognize and honor our Lapeer Early College 13th year students. We want to be able to share with you their accomplishments with earning associate's degrees and the amount of community service that they have done. That video will be released on the 5th at 6 p.m. The last one, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Spilski to get us started, but it's probably the one you want to know most about, and that is that hybrid commencement ceremony.
So as Matt and Doug have both talked about, we are trying to obviously serve our community the best way possible. And we're going to provide a couple different opportunities for our families to be involved in the commencement ceremony. First is going to be through a video ceremony. There will be a processional, a national anthem. We have already had our student speeches prepared, and we will be putting that together in a virtual format. We'll have the messages to the class from our board members, from myself, Mr. Lindsay, that we normally do, and then we'll have conferring of the class. So this is an opportunity for our families to see a graduation ceremony with our students, being talked to and being given messages of hope, and hoping that this is a format that those who aren't able to attend the second piece that Mr. Lindsay is going to talk about will still get to be a part of our graduation and get to feel as if there's some normalcy, and seeing their kid presented with a large group of communication of us honoring those kids. So that will be released at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, followed by what Mr. Lindsay is going to talk about right now with a ceremony at CFI.
So we know from talking to so many of you and from personal experiences that we have had, as I know Matt mentioned earlier recently, both him and I having graduates, the piece you want to see as parents, the piece that everyone wants, is their student's name being read and seeing their son or daughter go across the stage and receive their diploma. And we want to honor that piece to the best we can. So our current plan is to do this at the football stadium at CFI. This is weather dependent. We do have a backup plan to utilize the building here at LHS if necessary. But on that day, we want to bring parents and graduates to the stadium in flights of students. We can't bring everyone together at once, and that is unfortunate. But over the course of a 4-hour period, graduates from both schools will come and have their name read. Their parents will be able to be there. We are also working to live stream that event so family members not able to attend can see it. The times listed there, we would start at noon. That's why we're releasing the video so early in the morning. So the first quarter of our alphabet would come from noon to 1. Students with last names E through K would come from 1 to 2, and we'll progress through the rest of the day with that.
So this last slide that we're going to talk about is, I think our community involvement has been amazing, and we have had not only the high school staffs, but also our community partners throughout the town are working to create yard signs for each of our graduates to display in the community. We've seen that around many different communities, and we are working with our downtown people to do that, and that will be going out here shortly. Jared has always done a great job of putting our senior profiles on our social media. That will continue too. I know as we've read through some of the stuff on our social media pages, people want that to happen. That will continue to happen. And then our project graduation parents are planning, as we've normally had a all-night party because of the situation we're in right now. That isn't going to be available, but they are working on putting gifts together for every senior. So we commend them for their hard work and just how things have changed a little bit, but they are working to make sure that every senior, like what would happen at our after graduation party, would get gifts. They're going to still be able to provide those for those seniors as they end their high school career here at Lapeer High School or Lapeer Community High School.
So with this video message today coming out, we're also going to be sending a letter through all our avenues of communication. So we're going to send that via school messenger. We're going to send that out and put it on our Facebook page. I will be emailing it to the students, student email accounts for both buildings. And the letter contains even more detail than what we've shared with you here today. At this point, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Wandrie. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Doug and Shad. Really appreciate that message. I just want to reiterate to the entire community and on behalf of the central office leadership team and the Board of Education, at the center of our thinking during all this planning was really what was best to honor as many students as possible. I can share with you that one of the questions we asked our senior parents as part of the survey was the idea of potentially delaying the commencement ceremonies until maybe July or August, in the hopes that we'd return to some normalcy and large scale gatherings would be allowed again by the governor. And there was such a large percentage of our students and families that could not participate. We just felt that wasn't really a viable option. Graduation is the culminating event of any public school district's year, and it is an event for everyone. We really feel confident that by doing this hybrid approach, where there's a portion of the commencement ceremony that is going to be available virtually, and then still have the some semblance of a face-to-face experience where you can see and be around other people. It really is the community portion of this, given the restrictions that we're currently operating under. So I commend Doug and Shad and his team and all their efforts. Again, another reminder that when we do have these events, that we urge you to continue to practice the safe social distancing requirements that are still placed on us. And in full disclosure, we're recording this message on May 22nd. These things could be different as of June 7th or whatever the specific date of the events are. But if we are experiencing or we're still living under those same restrictions, we just ask that you respect those limitations and do the best we can, as we know you will. And just personally, a message to our senior class and your families. I know this is no one's fault, but as a lifelong educator, I know I can speak for Mr. Spilski and Mr. Lindsay that graduation and all these events that leading up to and as a part of the end of the year are something that we all look forward to. I've planned graduations, personally as a former high school principal, and all-night parties, and senior luncheons, and cap and gown disbursement, and all those things that we look forward to doing just as much, if not more, than you, because that's really a great way for us to say goodbye and get closure as you finish up 13 years, in the school district and the community. And we know that you guys were really shortchanged as a result of what happened. And we may not look back on 2020 because of the COVID issues fondly, but it doesn't take away the responsibility the school district still has to make sure that we can put together and coordinate the most positive experience possible. And I'm looking forward to all these events. They're going to be different. They're going to be unique. But at the same time, I think it's an opportunity for us to demonstrate how, as a community, even though the chips were down and they weren't the best circumstances, that we came through it and made the best of a bad circumstance. So thanks again to everyone on behalf of all of our staff. We look forward to seeing all of you at these events, and hopefully when we return to school in the fall, things look a bit more normal and what we're used to, so we can celebrate as an entire community once again at all of our district events. So thank you, and have a great weekend.